JMats here from GenerationD20.com, bringing you round 5 of my Magic Online Championship Series Season 9 tourney. I'm recording the video or audio after the fact because as I played the tournament I wanted to focus on my gameplay and not on this insightful and witty commentary that you are now having the misfortune of having to listen to. Opening hand was acceptable, not exceptional, but the Pride Guardian is actually in the deck just for this instance. Knowing that in an aggressive format like this, getting him down can hold off the first couple of turns until I can get airborne with like my Skywinder Drake. I'm 4-1 right now. Lost the last round, which was my first loss. And if you really get me started on that, I'll go into a rant about people who get buys. Because you can earn up to 3 buys, so there were several people who were playing for the very first time last round. And then the other thing that I'll start complaining about is that all QPs count the same. So there were several people who had 3 buys because they had won a lot of pauper tournaments. I had worked my butt off winning drafts and sealed events, and I could just barely get myself to the 15 points. Somewhere out there was someone who's, when I first came up with this goal said, that's a stupid goal. No one's ever going to win that many, 15 drafts in 30 days. Well, I did, but it was a stupid goal. Absolutely. There are easier ways. If your goal is to get QPs, don't do it the way I'm doing it. Because of that, though, I've kind of shifted my focus on what I'm going for. I'm not just going for QPs and qualifying. I'm, I guess, more looking for improvement in my play and maybe winning more individual tournaments, smaller tournaments. Anyway, I've been rambling, and in the meantime I've been attacking with my Skywinder Drake. Got a nice top deck there of a Mind Control. If I had not top decked it, I was planning on offering the trade and then staving off to keep my guy going. Obviously Mind Control is a much better play, much happier to have that as an option. And it definitely puts my opponent on a short clock with 2 flyers heading in. His hexproof guy, because I have the removal and I don't have, I do have removal, I would like to keep these guys. I decided that I'm going to stave off after he blocks to keep my one guy alive, or both of my guys alive, and that way hopefully if he runs out of flyers I'm in good shape. I met with a negate, which, at least I got it out of his hand. Now he's not going to negate my Oblivion Ring whenever I choose to use it. Phantasmal Dragon gets me a little bit more of a board presence again. He's at 8 life, and I have 8 power available. He plays out a couple of threats. And so I untap thinking, oh good, I'm going to swing in for the win. And here comes the Frost Breath. So I lose my dragon, but I decided to go ahead and mono-leak the Frost Breath, because although it killed my dragon, I really want to keep that Drake. He has nothing to stop me in the air, and that puts me at 3 turns to be able to win this. And it also puts me, 2 more turns to be able to win this. And if he plays a 1 flyer in those turns, I have an Oblivion Ring as an answer. So sure enough, the Bell Tower Sphinx comes out, and I don't have to sweat it and feel nervous. I just have to Oblivion Ring. And I am pretty sure that's what I do. Also nice to know that he only has one blue available, so I didn't have to worry about any sort of counterspell shenanigans. I knew it was going to get through, and I'm able to attack and get him down to 2 life, I think. 5. I don't know. Oh, cat on the keyboard. Well, at that point, he conceded, so who cares what happened. I did think it was funny that I was going to get all 3 black cards before I got a single swamp. And by funny, I mean infuriating. But the good news is, this guy isn't playing Grave Titan, and since I saw one in each of the last 2 rounds, it was a nice break from that. It's always nice when your opponent doesn't have one of the most powerful cards available for limited in the set. This is again keepable. The looter, if he doesn't just die, will give me, some card advantage or card cycling, so I can dig through. At the same time, when you have Sphinx in hand, you don't really want to throw away all of that land, because if you can get to 7 land by the time you get to turn 7, a 5/6 flyer with Factor Fiction attached to him can be a pretty good answer, can help to put the game away. So he has a Fire Slinger. I have the Looter. And he Ice Cages it. I hate to use Stave Off on an Ice Cage. I mean, I have, and I probably even do in this instance at some point. But I hate to do it just because there are so many other things that you could do, target him with, that would not be wasting that defensive spell. So what probably I should have done is cast it right now, and went ahead and looted for a turn. If I have to throw away one of those lands, not that big of a deal, because I'm going to have several turns in between now and then to get there. He brings out the Gore Horns, so I figured, well, if I get the dragon out there, then we each have a 5/5, and if he offers the trade, I take it, because I realize that if he can cast any sort of spell to make me have to sacrifice it, then he will take the lead. Here, I thought it was interesting. He had to kind of click around it to get to his Frost Breath, because he didn't want to tap my looter and end up losing his Ice Cage. And now, looking at it, I just see myself as 2 more turns away from the Sphinx. And with any luck, the Sphinx will be the answer that I need against the Minotaurs. So I go ahead and use that Stave Off. And like I said, I probably should have used it a couple turns ago, but I was just hesitant. Just thought that maybe there was something I could do, have a better use for that. And yeah, sure enough, draw another land. We don't need even more land. We just need the 2 land that we have. And the Gorehorn's just itching to swing in. And I'll go ahead and chump, because I know he does have a lot of things that can target my phantom creatures, and I want to get some value out of them, even if it's just buying me time. Incinerate on Looter. Looter just draws fire like no other. pacifism came at a very nice time since I had no other answers. And next turn I know I'm going to be able to cast the Sphinx. Some people say the Sphinx is bomb. I don't know if I'd go all the way to the bomb level. Kind of like the Demon, I don't think is all the way to the bomb level because it's 7, and getting to 7 in this format really takes some work, and so I'm unwilling to give it bomb status, which is funny because Inferno Titan and Grave Titan and almost, yeah, I'd say Frost Titan, I give them that status and they're at 6. But one extra land really can make the difference, especially when I seem to get stuck at like 3 land. Looking at the 5 cards, I know that whichever pile has Oblivion Ring in it is the pile that I'm going to take. And as it turns out, he not only gives me the Oblivion Ring, but also gives me a creature, which is nice. If he put all 3 creatures in one pile, I might have taken that over the Oblivion Ring. But here, when I can keep the Oblivion Ring and get a little extra value, there was no doubt that's what I was going to go with. So here, I have a chance to attack in, but because my life total is a little bit lower, I decided to keep back the Sphinx. Try to keep his Coral Merfolk at bay. And when he attacked, my thought was the only thing that can kill my Sphinx in combination would be either Turn to Frog or Chandra's Outrage. In this case, it was the Outrage. But drawing out that fire is probably worth it. That's what I was thinking. And then the other thing I'm thinking is, as long as that Fire Slinger is alive and on his side, he has me on the clock. And I can't block it, and I can't deal with it in many of my other ways. So I just decided to go ahead and Oblivion Ring it. Again, an Oblivion Ring on the Fire Slinger is the same overkill that the Doomblade was on the Looter. Probably more so on overkill, but... And he ends up swinging with a Hasty Dragon. And I don't have a swamp. I have the Doomblade. I don't have a swamp. And then, sure enough, I do draw into a Frost Breath, which I'll have to use next turn. Only way to keep myself alive. But I want to wait, because if he has another hasty creature, if right before combat he hasn't used it or cast anything, then it's time to go ahead and use the Frost Breath. And that buys me a short amount of time, basically to draw into a swamp is what I'm thinking. Instead, I draw into a second Doomblade, which, if I had a swamp, I would be happy to see. But as it turns out, I'm not so happy. And our dear opponent has another Hasty Dragon, and that's good game. So, once the game gets done, I don't know if I drew... Okay, 3 cards away from the swamp. My answer was coming. So at a game of peace, we go into the sideboard for the now critical Game 3, pivotal and critical Game 3, to decide who gets the win. And my opening hand is very keepable. Would like a island, especially with the double blue in the Aether Adept, but keeping with Pegasus into Griffin Rider or Looter or Aether Adept is definitely something I'm willing to go for. Got a little worried here because, if I miss a land drop, I'm not going to be able to curve out the way that I had hoped. And although the Pegasus could apply some pressure, he has, now 4 power on the board. Fortunately, I did draw into it, And my Griffin Sentinel is perfect for shutting down his board state currently, because the 3 toughness means the merfolk and the bear, neither one can deal lethal on their own. And he attacks with the bear, and I was willing to wait and see because I knew he couldn't cast anything on the bear, so it would have had to be something that he casts on me. And if he uses a, shock or incinerate to kill him, well, so be it. Then he doesn't have a shock or incinerate in his hand. I still am in need of land, and as is my opponent, we're both a little bit hosed on land. The outrage hurts a little bit. And here, I just chump with the looter. I actually do that a lot with the looter. I probably should give him more credit than I do, because he does really help with getting through a deck. Don't get another land, but I do get the satchel. And nice thing about the satchel is it can really start to make a difference, and you can really start to, dig through and get to that land, or add a little bit of life to your total, or get some saprolines that can chump block. So here, I play. Oh, I took the chance on that one, which is interesting. I took the chance, got lucky, got another land, was able to pacify as well, and attack in. It's not always going to work that way, of course, but in this one instance, it turned out rather well. And he's still applying the pressure with the bears, but knowing that if I want to, I have a Aether Adept that could kill his Phantasmal Bears, or I also have the option of bouncing the Gorehorn. I decided to just make the Gorehorn disappear, not worry about the bears for now, because the life race is far from over. But I am ahead right now, so wait for him to play more reasonable threats, and who knows, maybe I'll draw into something. So with the additional card, I decide, now that we're both in the single digits, I decide to go ahead and kill the bear and continue to attack through the air. Seeing that Frost Breath and that Doom Blade make me feel a little bit better about chances, especially through the air. And then also looking at my hand, seeing the 2 more flying creatures, it looks as if I might be able to produce a answer. And here comes a land, so this is nice because I can either go Assault Griffin, or I can do Skywinder Drake and use the satchel again. I attack with the Adept because I would love to trade that for his hexproof creature, but it just doesn't happen. So I go with the 3 casting cost so I can use the satchel. If I'm able to draw out another land, that's a huge difference for me. Gets me up to 6, closer to 7, so that I can start to do some of that profitably. Now, knowing that Dragon's coming, I went ahead and tried to draw in, and Frost Breath is somewhat wasted since we can't tap that hexproof guy, but it buys me time with the dragon. It allows me to swing in with the team, and my opponent is forced to decide who to switch with and why. And I am able to get in 4 damage and get out my Assault Griffin. And my opponent's creatures won't untap this turn. And sure enough, Bell Tower Sphinx comes down, which is hard for me. Sitting with the Double Doom Blade, though, I think, if I can get to a swamp, I could kill it. But instead, I'm going to get to yet another black card. And so I wait until the attack phase just to see whether or not my opponent might not use his crown. I could kind of do a rush, but no, sure enough, does use the crown. I'm not looking for a trade of my creatures for a little bit of damage to him. So pass back. And here it gets tough, because you know that dragon is going to be flying in. Possibly the Bell Tower Sphinx will be flying in. Crimson Mage might give himself haste. So you know that there's some legitimate threats that are going to be attacking, and there's going to be mana up to use the crown's ability. And so we wait, as usual, and doesn't attack with the Sphinx, because I'm going to use that to hold off my attack. Tap one and have the Sphinx there as the answer to the other. And here I go again, searching. And when I see that mind control is on its way, that definitely gives me some hope. Because I know next turn, unless he has a counter spell, that I am going to be able to steal a blocker if necessary. And maybe even, if I take the dragon, I could steal an attacker. So my opponent's mulling it over, trying to decide with the life totals as they are, where are we going to get to? Is it worth it to attack with one creature or 2 creatures? And if he had some burn in his hand, it would be tapping down my creature and probably attacking through. Maybe that's what happens. So am I going to be at 2, I think? But I knew the mind control was coming, and I knew that the dragon would get haste, but so did he. So he just conceded, and that gives me another win. I'm 4-1, and getting ready for round 6.